As the sun goes down and the shadows fall, the night takes its hold, and there is no escape, the end of all. There's no escape, the end of all.
I should never have opened that door. I've never told this story properly before. Not because I don't want to, but because every time I try, people either laugh or they think I'm exaggerating. I'm not. And honestly, I wish none of it had ever happened. This was about 8 years ago. I had just moved into a rented house on the edge of a small village. One of those places where everything feels quiet, but not peaceful. Like the silence is watching you. The house was cheap, and that should have been my first warning. 3 bedrooms, detached, big garden. Too cheap. But I didn't ask questions because I needed somewhere fast. The landlord met me outside. Nice enough guy. Nervous energy, though. Kept tapping his car keys against his leg. When he handed me the keys, he said something strange. He said, "Just don't use the back room if you can help it." I laughed because I thought he meant it was cold or damp or something. He didn't laugh back. The back room was at the end of a narrow hallway. Small. Bare. Nothing in it except a fitted wardrobe built into the wall and a door. Not a normal door, a smaller one, about waist height, painted the same color as the wall like someone wanted it to disappear. I assumed it was storage. Didn't think anything of it. At first. The first week was normal. Unpacking. Getting used to the quiet. But every night around the same time, just after 2 a.m., I'd hear a faint tapping sound from down the hallway. Not loud, just rhythmic, like someone lightly knocking from far away. Tap. Pause. Tap. Tap. Pause. I told myself it was pipes. Old houses make noises. Everyone says that. Then one night I got up to check. I wish I hadn't. The hallway felt colder than the rest of the house. That's the first thing I remember clearly. The second was the smell. Not bad, just old. Like air that hadn't moved in years. The tapping stopped as soon as I stepped into the hallway. Dead silence. I stood there for maybe 10 seconds. Then I heard it again. Right at the end. Inside the back room. I pushed the door open slowly. The light switch didn't work, so I used my phone torch. The beam landed directly on that small door in the wall, and that's when I noticed something I swear wasn't there before. Scratches. Thin, vertical scratches around the edges of the frame, like something had been trying to pull it open from the inside. I should have walked away. I know that now. But curiosity wins sometimes. I crouched down, reached for the handle, and just as my fingers touched it, the tapping started again. But this time it wasn't faint. It was right behind the door. Fast. Urgent. Like someone trying to get my attention. I froze. And then, something knocked back. 3 slow knocks. From the other side. I don't remember leaving the room. I just remember being back in my bedroom with the door locked, and the tapping didn't stop all night. The next morning I called the landlord. I tried to sound casual. I asked what the small door was for. There was a long silence. Then he said, "I told you not to open that," and hung up. That night at exactly 2:13 a.m., something tried the handle of my bedroom door. I didn't open my bedroom door straight away. I just lay there, frozen, watching the handle slowly stop moving. Whoever or whatever had been trying it didn't knock, didn't speak, didn't even breathe loudly enough for me to hear, just tested the handle, like it already knew I was inside. Eventually, the hallway went quiet again. I stayed awake until sunrise. The next morning, I told myself I'd imagined it. Sleep paralysis, stress, new house. That's what people always say when something doesn't make sense. But the feeling in my chest didn't go away. You know that feeling when you walk into a room and immediately know someone else has been there. The house felt like that all day, occupied. I called the landlord again. No answer. I tried texting. Nothing. By afternoon, I convinced myself I was being ridiculous. So I went back into the back room, just to prove there was nothing there. The small door looked normal, closed, quiet, no tapping. I told myself I'd laugh about this later. I reached out and touched the handle again, cold, colder than anything else in the room. I didn't open it. Not then. That evening, I met my neighbor for the first time. Older woman, lived alone next door. She waved me over while I was taking bins out. We talked about normal things at first. Parking, rubbish collection days, weather. Then she asked how I was settling in. I said it was good, mostly. She nodded slowly. Then she said, "You've heard it, haven't you?" It wasn't a question. I didn't answer right away. She looked at the house behind me, not at me, when she spoke next. The last tenant stayed 3 months. Pause. The one before that lasted 2 weeks. Another pause. They all heard knocking. I laughed. Not because it was funny, just because I didn't know what else to do. She didn't smile. Instead, she leaned closer and lowered her voice. They boarded that door once. A cold shiver ran through me. What door? I asked, even though I already knew. The little one. I asked her what was behind it. She shook her head slowly. No one knows for sure, but years ago. That room used to be part of the old house next door before they knocked walls through during renovations. She pointed toward the fence separating the properties. The builders found something they didn't expect. She didn't elaborate, just walked back inside. That night, I couldn't ignore it anymore. Curiosity stopped feeling like curiosity and started feeling like pressure, like the house wanted me to know. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the tapping started again. Louder, faster, desperate. I sat up in bed, heart racing. And before I could talk myself out of it, I grabbed my phone and walked down the hallway. The tapping stopped as soon as I reached the back room. Silence. Heavy. Waiting. I crouched in front of the small door again. My hands were shaking. I told myself, just open it. Then this will all make sense. The handle turned easily, too easily. The door opened inward, and behind it wasn't a cupboard. It was a narrow crawl space, dark, deep, much deeper than the wall should allow. My torchlight barely reached the end. The air that came out smelled stale and cold. And then I saw it. Scratches. All along the inside walls, not random, vertical, like fingernails dragged downward again and again. Something shifted at the far end of the crawl space, not moving toward me, just adjusting, like someone trying not to be seen. I felt my stomach drop, and then I heard breathing. Slow. Wet. Right at the edge of my light. I slammed the door shut so hard the frame rattled. The tapping stopped instantly. The entire house went silent. Dead silent. I left the house that night. Didn't pack properly, didn't look back. Slept in my car until morning. A week later, I returned with a friend to collect my things. The landlord was there. He looked relieved to see me, which felt strange. I asked him directly, "What's behind that door?" He hesitated, then said quietly, "They sealed it years ago. There used to be a passage between the two houses, but after the accident..." He stopped himself, refused to explain further. Before I left, I walked into the back room one last time. The small door was gone. Completely. Wall plastered smooth, like it had never existed. I ran my hand across the paint. No seams, no handle, nothing. I moved away after that. Different town, different house, and for years nothing happened. Until last month, when I woke up at exactly 2:13 a.m. and heard 3 slow knocks coming from inside my wardrobe. I didn't open my wardrobe that night. I just lay there staring at it, waiting for something to happen again. Nothing moved, nothing knocked, but the silence felt wrong, like it was listening back. Eventually, I convinced myself I had imagined it. New house, stress, lack of sleep. That's what people say when things don't make sense. Morning came slowly. The first thing I noticed was the wardrobe door. It wasn't fully closed anymore, just slightly open, wide enough for darkness to sit inside like it belonged there. I stared at it for a long time before getting out of bed. I told myself I must have left it like that. People forget things. That's normal. Inside was nothing unusual. Clothes, shoes, empty space, but the air felt colder. Not freezing, just stale. Like it hadn't moved in years. And for a second, just a second, I caught that same smell from the old house. Old dust, closed spaces, something forgotten. I pushed the wardrobe shut and left for work. Tried to move on, tried to pretend everything was normal. But all day I felt watched. Not in the obvious way. More like someone standing just out of sight, waiting for you to turn around. That night, the knocking came back. 3 slow knocks. Not from the wardrobe, from the wall behind my bed. I sat upright instantly, heart racing, listening, waiting. The knocks came again. Measured, deliberate, like someone testing whether I was still there. I pressed my ear against the wall, cold plaster against my skin, and that's when I heard breathing. Faint, slow. Not loud enough to be human, just enough to be real. I moved the bed away from the wall. Nothing there, no marks, no cracks, just smooth paint. But the sound followed. Each time I moved, the knocking shifted slightly, like it was tracking me. That's when the thought first crossed my mind. What if it wasn't attached to the house? What if it was attached to me? I went back to the old village the next day. I don't even remember deciding to go. I just drove. The house looked normal. A family lived there now. Children's bikes in the garden. Curtains open, life continuing untouched. The man who answered the door said there was no back room, no hidden door, no crawl space. He said renovations had sealed part of the house years ago. Structural issues. That was all he would say. Before I left, he added quietly, "Sometimes the dog stares at that wall and growls." I drove home feeling sick. And when I opened my front door, the wardrobe was open again, wider this time, as if something had stepped through it. I stopped sleeping in that room after that, moved to the sofa, left the bedroom door closed, but the knocking didn't stop. It moved. First the bedroom wall, then the hallway, then one night, right beside me, inside the living room wall, 3 slow knocks, close enough that I felt them through the furniture. That's when I knew. The door had never been a barrier. It had been an invitation, and I had opened it. Days blurred together after that. Mirrors felt wrong. Corners felt darker. Reflections lingered longer than they should, and always, just behind me. One night I stayed awake deliberately, watching the clock, waiting. 2:13 a.m. came and went. Nothing. Relief started to settle in. Maybe it was finally over. Then, 3 knocks. Not from the wall, not from the wardrobe. From underneath me, inside the sofa. I jumped up. The cushion shifted slightly, like something beneath it had moved, waiting, listening, learning. I left everything behind that night. New town, new place, no heavy furniture, no wardrobes, nothing pressed against walls, just open space. For months, nothing happened. Until last week. I woke up at exactly 2:13 a.m. No sound, no movement, just silence. And then, a single knock from inside my chest.
Yeah. Midnight. After dark. Mad story. Yeah. Yeah. It's that after dark power. Late night lost hours. Turn it up, feel the sound. When the whole world quiets down. This that after dark feeling. Cold air, mind reeling. Once you step inside, ain't no place to hide. Yeah. Lights off, city hush, clock hit late. Every shadow feeling heavier with weight. Phone glow low, curtains drawn. Same old house, but the calm is gone. Floorboard talking, nobody move. Tell me why I feel watched in this room. Say it's nothing, but I know that lie. After midnight, truth don't hide. Yeah.
Heartbeat slow, then it double time. Every story cross that line when the silence get loud. That's when fear come round. It's that after dark power. Midnight story hour. Mad stories in the sound. When the whole world quiets down. Yeah. It's that after dark power. Feel it every hour. Once you hear that tone, you ain't never alone.
Street light flicker, air feels strange. Every step like the mood done changed. Bread held tight, door won't close. Tell me why I feel that presence close. Static calm in the walls again. Same old place, I'm a different sin. Say you brave, but your heart beats fast. After dark, the truth don't.
It's that after dark power. Late night lost hours. Mad stories in the sound. When the whole world quiets down. Yeah, it's that after dark power. Cold chill fear tower. Once you hear that tone, you ain't never alone. This that at the dark power. The dark power.
It's that at the dark. This that power.